The five-star hotel in Miami Beach had a perfect view of the ocean. Luke Fitzgerald, 32 years old, CEO of Fitzgerald Industries, was on the presidential suite balcony, looking at the ocean, but seeing nothing. Beside him, his wife of exactly 48 hours, Eleanor. He didn't know her last name, didn't know her exact age, barely knew her face properly. They had met 3 times before getting married, and now they were on their honeymoon, pretending to be a couple in love for photographers and family. But the truth? They were complete strangers, married out of necessity. His grandfather's will was clear. To inherit a $3 billion empire, Luke needed to be married before turning 33. He had 6 months when his grandfather died. He tried to contest it. Lawyers said it was impossible. So he did the unthinkable, hired a wife, through a discreet agency, 2-year contract. She would receive $5 million. He would inherit billions, simple, transactional, no complications. Except now, second night of honeymoon, Eleanor was sleeping in the next room, and Luke had just discovered something that changed everything, because when she left for dinner, she left her laptop open, and Luke, curious, looked and saw emails, documents, photos. That revealed who Eleanor really was, and she wasn't who she said she was, not even close. And Luke realized he had married someone much more dangerous or much more valuable than he ever imagined. Before continuing with this emotional story, subscribe to the channel to always receive special stories like this one and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new videos. 3 months before that moment of discovery on the honeymoon, Luke was in a family law office receiving devastating news. "There's no way to contest it," said Dr. Mitchell, trusted lawyer. "Your grandfather's will is airtight. To inherit, you need to be married, and you have 6 months. This is ridiculous. He can't control my life from the grave." He can and did. He believed marriage brought stability, responsibility, and made it a condition. Luke ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. "What if I simply don't inherit? Let my uncles have the company." "Your uncles will destroy the company in 5 years. You know that. Your grandfather built an empire. You're the only one capable of maintaining it." It was true. Luke had worked at the company for 10 years, knew every department, every decision. He was the natural successor, but grandfather had been traditional, obsessed with family and legacy, and apparently believed a single man couldn't lead properly. "So what do I do? Marry the first person I meet?" Dr. Mitchell hesitated, and then took a card from his pocket. "There's an alternative. Unconventional, but legal." Luke looked at the card. Matrimonial solutions, discreet solutions for strategic unions. This is a fake marriage agency. Real marriage, but transactional. They connect people who need to marry for non-romantic reasons. Inheritance, visas, other reasons, all legal, all documented. "And you're seriously suggesting this?" "I'm suggesting you consider all options. You have 6 months. You can try to find someone conventionally, or you can guarantee the inheritance in a controlled way." Luke looked at the card. Every moral fiber in him said it was wrong, but the pragmatic part, the part grandfather had cultivated, saw the logic. "And after I inherit, quiet divorce, well compensated. Both parties move on." Luke kept the card, not as a decision, but as a possibility. 2 weeks later, after 3 disastrous dates with women friends tried to introduce, Luke called the number on the card. "Matrimonial solutions, how can I help? I have a situation. I need to get married for inheritance, and I'm looking for an arrangement. I understand perfectly. It's more common than you think. Can you come to the office tomorrow for a confidential consultation?" The office was discreet. Business building in Manhattan. Nothing flashy. Inside, a woman in her mid-40s, Dr. Sylvia, received him. "Mr. Fitzgerald, thank you for coming. Let's discuss your needs." In the following hours, Luke explained the situation. Will deadline. Need to seem real for family and media. "We have perfect candidates," said Dr. Sylvia. "Women who also need an arrangement, for their own reasons. Visa, debt, protection, various reasons." "And how does it work?" "You meet the candidates, choose one, sign a detailed contract, get married, live together for the agreed period, usually 1 to 2 years, then divorce amicably. She receives agreed compensation. You get what you need. And if it doesn't work out, if one of us wants out early, the contract has clauses, penalties, protections for both parties. But Mr. Fitzgerald, we need to be clear. This requires commitment from both. It's not a game. I understand. So, want to see profiles? Luke nodded, and Dr. Sylvia showed folders. 6 women, all with photos, basic information, reasons for arrangement. The first was a doctor who needed to pay off student debt. Interesting but too career-focused, would barely have time to maintain the appearance of marriage. The second was a model who needed a visa to continue working in the US. Too public, risky to keep secret. The third seemed promising until he saw the note. Prefers short marriage, 6 months maximum. Too short to seem credible. And then he saw the fourth folder. Photo of a woman approximately 30 years old. Dark brown hair, serious but kind eyes. Simple description. Eleanor, 30 years old. University art history professor. No close family. Reason for arrangement. Needs financial stability to continue academic research. Available for 2-year arrangement. Discreet, reliable, excellent references. Tell me more about her, Luke requested. Elena is very reserved but extremely intelligent. PhD in progress. Works at a public university, but research is expensive. Without adequate funding. Distant family. Grew up in an orphanage. Independent. Knows exactly what she wants. Can I meet her? Of course, I'll arrange it. The first meeting was at a neutral cafe. Elena arrived punctually, dressed simply but elegantly. No elaborate makeup, no jewelry. Just her. Mr. Fitzgerald, she greeted, formal. Luke, please. Luke, and you can call me Elena. They ordered coffee and talked, not as potential spouses, but as people evaluating a business partnership. Why are you doing this? Luke asked directly. Honestly? Because I need money. My research is on Brazilian Renaissance art. Specific. Not popular, I don't get funding. And without money I can't continue, simple as that. And fake marriage is the answer. Real marriage, but transactional. Yes, it's the answer, because 2 years of my life in exchange for financial stability to complete a decade of research seems fair. Her frankness was refreshing. No beating around the bush, no games. And after the 2 years, divorce, gratefully, and return to the life I want. Quiet life, academic, no spotlight. Don't you want to stay rich? Elena smiled. Wealth doesn't interest me, just stability, just a chance to do the work I love. Luke studied her. There was honesty there, or a very good performance. And can you act like a wife, for family, for media? I can act however necessary. For 2 years, I'm a good actress when I need to be. The second meeting was dinner, more formal. Testing if they could maintain longer conversation. They discovered that despite completely different lives, they had common points. Love for history, appreciation for art, and pragmatism that allowed considering an arrangement like this. The third meeting was with lawyers, reviewing contract, page after page of terms. Compensation, $5 million. Duration, 2 years minimum. Obligations, live together, attend events together, maintain appearance of real marriage. Right to privacy, separate bedrooms allowed. Fidelity not required but absolute discretion if there were other involvements. Divorce, no dispute, no drama, clean split. Do you agree with everything? Luke asked. I agree. And you? I agree. They signed. And so 3 weeks after meeting, they married. Small ceremony at City Hall, only necessary witnesses. Luke's family was informed it was an intimate wedding because both were private people. But will there be a party? Luke's mother asked. We need to introduce Elena to society. We'll have a reception when we return from the honeymoon, Luke promised. The honeymoon was part of the contract. 2 weeks in a romantic location. For photos, for appearances. They chose Miami Beach, far but not too international. And now they were here. Day 2 of 14, in a luxurious suite. Strangers pretending to be lovers. The first night had been strange. They had separate rooms in the suite. Luke in the master, Elena in the adjacent one. But for breakfast they had to appear intimate, touch casually, smile at each other. This is harder than I thought, Elena admitted after the first morning of performance. I agree, it feels artificial, because it is. But we'll get better, with practice. The second night, they went to dinner at an oceanfront restaurant for photos that would circulate on social media, necessary to maintain appearances. "Smile more," Luke whispered, as they posed for tourists' photos. "I am smiling. You look like you're in pain. I'm not used to it. I don't smile much." Obviously. But they managed. The photos turned out well. Beautiful couple on romantic honeymoon. Perfect for Instagram. Perfect to deceive the world. And then came the crucial moment. Eleanor had gone out to walk on the beach, said she needed air. Luke stayed in the suite working, always working, and noticed her laptop was open, on the table unlocked. Luke wasn't a snoop, but something pulled him. Curiosity about who really was the woman he had married. He approached, looked at the screen, and saw open email from a university, but not from where she said she worked, from Cambridge University, England. "Dear Professor Whitmore, thank you for the update on your research. We look forward to your return in September. The Art History Department awaits the continuation of your work on Renaissance influences." "Professor?" Elena said she was a public university professor doing a PhD, but the email suggested she already had the title and worked at Cambridge. Luke clicked on the email folder, opened others, and saw more. Correspondence with European galleries, about consultancies, about art appraisals costing tens of thousands of euros. And then he saw a photo folder, opened it, and stopped. Photos of Elena, but not the simple Elena in jeans and t-shirt he had met. Elena at galas, designer dresses, beside important people, famous museum curators, billionaire collectors, even some European politicians. One photo in particular made him freeze. Elena at the Louvre, with a plaque, "Dr. Elena Whitmore, guest expert in Renaissance art." Dr. Whitmore, not Elena the professor who needed money, but Dr. Elena Whitmore, apparently a renowned international expert. Luke continued searching, found articles, academic papers published in prestigious journals, all with her name, citations by other academics, and then he found something more shocking: financial document, bank statements. That showed millions in euros. Elena wasn't poor. She was rich, very rich. Luke was processing when he heard the suite door open. "Luke, I'm back," Elena called. He closed the laptop quickly, returned to the sofa where he had been working, heart racing, mind running. Elena entered, hair messy from the wind, cheeks pink from the sun. "The beach is beautiful. You should come tomorrow." "Maybe," Luke said, studying her with new eyes. Who was she? Why was she pretending to be poor? Why did she accept the arrangement if she didn't need money? And more importantly, what else was she hiding? That night, Luke didn't sleep, stayed awake, processing. Options ran through his mind. Confront her? Demand the truth? But if he did, she'd know he invaded her privacy. Broke trust. What little there was in the arrangement. Ignore it? Pretend he didn't discover. But how to live close for 2 years knowing she was lying? Investigate more? Discover the full extent of her lie? By morning, he decided, he would investigate, discreetly, and only when he had complete evidence would he confront her. "Are you okay?" Elena asked during breakfast. "You seem distracted." "Just thinking about work. Nothing major." But it was very major, because Luke had married a stranger, expecting simplicity, clarity, clean transaction. And instead, he had married a mystery, a woman who had an entire hidden life, with reasons he didn't understand. And he needed to find out why, before her secrets became his problems. In the following days of the honeymoon, Luke observed Elena more closely and began noticing inconsistencies, small ones. But there, the way she talked about art wasn't like a student, it was like an expert. References she made were obscure, the kind only someone very immersed in the field would know. Languages. Eleanor spoke Portuguese perfectly, but when she answered a call thinking he wasn't nearby, she spoke in perfect English, then in fluent French, then in Italian, and when they went to a gallery in Miami, the curator recognized her. "Aren't you?" he began, but Elena cut him off quickly. "No, you're confusing me with someone. It happens." But Luke saw recognition in the curator's eyes, saw Elena quickly change the subject, saw the lie. 1 week into the honeymoon, Luke couldn't take it anymore. "Elena, I need to ask you something. They were in the suite, after dinner. Rare moment of real privacy. What? Who are you really? Eleanor became very quiet, sharp eyes evaluating him. What do you mean? I mean, I don't believe the story you told about being a poor professor needing money. There are inconsistencies. Like? Luke didn't want to admit he had invaded her laptop, so he was vague. Small things, the way you talk about art, languages you speak, the curator who recognized you. You're more than you said you were. Elena sighed, long and heavy. And if I am, does that change the contract? Depends on who you really are and why you lied. I didn't lie. I just omitted. Omitted what? Eleanor stood up, walked to the window, stayed looking at the ocean, and then, without turning, began to speak. My full name is Elena Whitmore. I'm a doctor in art history. I work for Cambridge University as a visiting professor. I specialize in Renaissance art. And yes, I have money. Quite a bit. Luke felt confirmation of suspicions, but also confusion. So why are you here? Why did you accept the arrangement if you don't need money? Because I need something else. Something money can't buy. What? Elena finally turned, and her eyes had something Luke hadn't seen before. Vulnerability. I need protection from a very dangerous man, and I thought marriage and even fakes could give me that. And there, with the ocean as witness and honeymoon as impossible backdrop, Eleanor began telling the true story. The story that explained everything and changed absolutely everything about their arrangement. But before continuing and discovering who Eleanor is running from and why marriage to Luke was her only salvation, leave your like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and hit the bell so you don't miss any new stories. What do you think Elena is hiding? Who's after her? And will Luke help or end the contract immediately? Also tell me what city you're watching this video from, and I'll mark your comment with a special heart. Now let's get back to our story. Elena took a deep breath and began telling the story that would change everything. 3 years ago, I was hired by a private collector to authenticate a painting. Rare Renaissance work, supposedly by Caravaggio, worth millions if real. He was about to buy it at a private auction. Luke sat down, listening attentively. And it was fake? He asked. It was. Exceptional forgery. But fake. I warned my client, a man named Viktor Morozov, Russian billionaire, and he was grateful. I saved him from losing 20 million euros. And what's the problem? Elena closed her eyes. The problem is that the painting's seller was another powerful man, Dmitry Volkov, also Russian, also billionaire, and also a trafficker of forged art, among other illegal things. And he found out you exposed him. He found out and was furious. First tried to buy me, offered money to change my appraisal. I refused, then tried to threaten me. Said if I told anyone the painting was fake, he would destroy me. And you told anyway. I did, because it was my job, my reputation, and because a man was trying to deceive another for millions. I couldn't stay quiet. Elena opened her eyes, and there was genuine fear there. In the following 6 months, my life became hell, received constant threats. My London apartment was broken into, nothing stolen, just messed up. A warning, my car was vandalized, and then my research assistant was assaulted, brutally. The message was clear. I was next. Luke felt a chill down his spine. Did you go to the police? I did. But Dmitry is untouchable, has connections, money, power. Police said they couldn't prove anything, and his lawyers sent me defamation lawsuits, tried to destroy me professionally. And did it work? Almost. I lost some clients, but others, who know my reputation, stayed on my side, including Victor, the man I saved. He offered me protection, but it comes with a cost. He wants me to work exclusively for him, and I don't completely trust him. So you ran. I ran, came to the US, country where Dmitry doesn't have as much reach, changed my name in American documents to just Elena, no Whitmore, kept a low profile. And when I saw the matrimonial agency ad, I saw an opportunity. Luke was beginning to understand. You thought that marrying an American billionaire with a powerful family here would give you an extra layer of protection. Exactly. If I'm married to you, if I'm part of the Fitzgerald family, I'm less vulnerable. Dmitry would think twice before touching me if it meant confronting an American empire. And you didn't tell me this because if I had, you would never have accepted. Who marries knowing they're putting themselves in potential danger? Luke couldn't disagree. She was right. If he had known from the start, he would have refused. And the money you have, where does that fit in? Inheritance. My parents died when I was 10. They were British diplomats, left a trust fund. That grew. And my consultancies pay very well, so yes, I have money. But money doesn't protect me from a man like Dimitri. Luke stood up, walked around the suite, processing. So let me understand. You lied about who you are, potentially put me and my family at risk, and expected. What? That I would simply accept when I found out? I hoped not to be discovered, Elena admitted. At least not so soon. I hoped to have time to explain, to make you see it could work. How? How can this work when the entire premise is a lie? Because the contract is still valid. I still do my part. I'm your wife in appearance. You still inherit. And in exchange, you give me protection. Protection you didn't know you were giving, but you give it anyway. And when Dimitri finds out where you are? If he finds out? That's why I only used Elena in American documents. That's why I kept a low profile. That's why I chose you, someone powerful, but not in the art world. Someone Dimitri would have no reason to investigate. Luke looked at her and saw not a hired wife, but a desperate woman, scared, running from something very real. Show me, he finally said. Show me evidence, threats, lawsuits, everything. If I'm going to risk my family, I need to know the extent. Elena nodded, and in the following hours she showed everything. Threatening emails, photos of the broken-into apartment, police report about her assistant's assault, legal documents from defamation lawsuits, and photos of Dimitri, a man in his early 50s, cold eyes, expression that left no doubt about his danger. He's a monster, Luke said, looking at photos. Real. He is. And I exposed him. And men like him don't forgive that. Luke closed the laptop, looked at Elena. You should have told me from the start. I know, and I'm sorry, but I was desperate. And you were the best option. I wasn't an option. I was being used. Yes, I was, and I apologize for that. If you want to end the contract, I understand. I'll leave, and you can annul the marriage for fraud. Technically, I lied about my identity. Luke thought. He could do that, could end everything, find another solution for the inheritance, or forget the inheritance completely. But he looked at Elena and saw not a calculating manipulator, but a woman who made desperate choices to survive, and something in him, perhaps the same protective instinct that grandfather had tried to cultivate by requiring marriage, responded. I'm not going to end the contract, he finally said. Eleanor looked surprised. You're not? No, but we're going to renegotiate terms completely. How? First, no more lies. About anything. Your doctor, Helena Whitmore. I know. Family will know, society will know. We'll explain that you use only Eleanor professionally for privacy, but no lies. Elena nodded. I agree. Second, I'm going to hire security for you. Discreet, but real. And I'll have my team investigating Dimitri. Knowing the enemy, we protect ourselves better. You're willing to do this? If I'm going to be married to you, even transactionally, I can't have you in constant danger. It's bad strategy. And contrary to what my grandfather would have wanted, he valued protecting family. But I'm not real family. For 2 years you are. And Fitzgeralds protect their own, even when their own came through a contract. Elena had tears in her eyes. Thank you. I don't know what to say. Say the truth always, from here forward, about everything. Deal, deal. And there, in a suite in Miami Beach, with the ocean as witness, their contract changed. It was no longer just transactional. It was something more complex, real partnership, based on belated truth, but truth nonetheless. The rest of the honeymoon was different. They still kept separate rooms, were still essentially strangers. But there was honesty now. Eleanor told about her real life, about work at Cambridge, about cases she had worked on, about art she loved. And Luke shared too, about pressure of leading an empire, about family expectations, about loneliness of position. I never wanted this, he admitted one night. The company, the power. It just happened. I grew up in it, and now I can't imagine not having it. But are you happy? I don't know. I don't think about happiness. I think about responsibility. Duty, legacy. Sounds lonely. It is, but it is what it is. Eleanor studied him. You know what's strange? Both of us. We have lives many would envy, money, success, status. But we're both hiding, running. You from expectations, me from real threat. And we found each other through fake marriage. Not so fake now, Luke observed. Not after everything we've shared. No, not so fake. When they returned to New York, Luke kept his promise, hired discreet security team, and put private investigators on Dimitri. I want to know everything, he instructed. Movements, business, associates, everything. He also introduced Elena to family, not as poor professor, but as Dr. Elena Whitmore, respected academic, who prefers to keep professional life private. Why didn't you tell us she was so accomplished? Luke's mother asked, impressed. Because Elena is modest and doesn't define herself by titles. The Fitzgerald family loved her, especially when they saw her intelligence, conversations she had about art, history, culture, and how she handled media, gracefully but without revealing much. She's perfect for you, said Luke's sister, smart, elegant, and clearly adores you. The last part was act, but becoming less so, because as weeks passed, Luke and Elena developed genuine friendship, based on shared honesty, mutual respect, and understanding that both carried burdens. 3 months into marriage, investigators came back with report. Dmitry Volkov is active, still operates art trafficking network, but has expanded, now also involved in money laundering, and has connections with organized crime, Russian and Italian. Dangerous connections, observed Luke. Very, but we also found weakness. He's being investigated in Italy for fraud case. If we add information we have, could strengthen that case, making him more vulnerable. Exactly, but also potentially more dangerous if he feels cornered, Luke discussed with Elena. It's a risk, but also opportunity to neutralize him, or provoke him to act more desperately, she countered. What do you want to do? Elena thought. I want him stopped, but safely, not in a way that puts you or your family at risk. Then we move carefully, strengthen security, share information with Italian authorities, but prepare for retaliation. And they did. Over following months, Luke's team worked with Italian investigators, building case, gathering evidence, while Elena continued her work, now openly as Dr. Whitmore with Fitzgerald protection. 6 months into marriage, Dmitry made his move, not violently, but strategically. He showed up in New York, at Art Gala, where Luke and Elena were attending. Dr. Whitmore, he said, approaching, accent thick, smile cold. What a surprise to see you here, and married. Congratulations. Elena tensed, but Luke placed hand on her back. Supportive. Mr. Volkov, she said coolly. I didn't know you were in New York. Business, always business. And you? Still authenticating paintings, or has marriage changed your career? My career is as strong as ever, perhaps stronger. Dmitry looked at Luke. And you are the fortunate husband. Luke Fitzgerald. I know of your family. Impressive empire. Thank you, and I know of you too, Mr. Volkov. Your reputation precedes you. There was weight in those words. Dmitry caught it. Does it? And what does my reputation say? That you're a man who doesn't like to be crossed, but also a man who understands power and respects it. Dmitry smiled, but eyes stayed cold. Wise words. Yes, I understand power, and I respect it when it's real. But I also know that power built on lies crumbles. Then it's fortunate, said Elena, that our marriage is built on truth, complete truth. Dmitry studied her. Then Luke. We'll see. But no, I don't give up. Ever. And eventually, everyone bows. Everyone. He left, leaving threat hanging. Well, Luke said when they were alone, that was tense. It was. But we didn't bow. No, and we won't. But in following weeks, Dmitry tried new tactics. Pressure through art associations, attempts to discredit Elena professionally, planted articles questioning her competence. He's trying to destroy my reputation since he couldn't buy or intimidate me, Eleanor explained. And is it working? With some. But most know my work. Trust it. And the more he tries, the more obvious it becomes. He's desperate. And then, 8 months into marriage, there was a breakthrough. Investigators discovered connection. between Dimitri and much larger art fraud case in Italy, involving dozens of pieces, hundreds of millions. If we hand this over to Italian authorities, said investigator, they'll arrest him. Evidence is solid. Luke looked at Elena. It's your decision. You're the one he persecuted, Elena thought. If we do this, we end him, but also make a permanent enemy. You're already his enemy, but this way he's imprisoned, not just intimidated. What if he has connections, gets out? Maybe, but at least buys time and establishes precedent, shows that messing with you has real consequences. Elena decided. We do it. We hand over the evidence. And they did. Italian authorities acted fast. Dimitri was arrested in Rome. 2 days later, international headlines, Russian billionaire arrested for massive art fraud. It's over, Elena said when they saw the news. Really over. Luke hugged her. First spontaneous hug, not for photographers, just between them. You're safe now. Thanks to you and your family and your resources. Thanks to you, your courage, your integrity, you who refused to bow. They stayed like that, embraced and realized something had changed, deeply. 1 year into marriage, they were no longer strangers, no longer just contractual partners. They were friends, real ones, who had fought a battle together and won. You know what's funny? Elena said one day. I married you for protection, transaction, but found something more. What? A partner. Real. Someone I would choose to be with, not because I need to, but because I want to. Luke looked at her and admitted the truth he had been avoiding. I feel the same, and it wasn't supposed to be, wasn't part of the contract. Nothing that happened was part of the contract. So what do we do? Contract has 1 more year. We could renegotiate. Again. How? Elena smiled. We could try real, not transactional, real marriage, based on choice, not necessity. Luke felt his heart race. Are you saying you want to continue, after the 2 years? I'm saying I want to try. See if what we have can be something more, without contracts, without deadlines, just us. Luke took her hand. Elena Whitmore, are you asking me to turn fake marriage into real? I am. Is it crazy? Completely. But it's the crazy I want. They kissed. First kiss. 1 year married. And it was perfect. It was real. It was choice. 2 years after wedding, original divorce date, they renewed vows, again. But this time, not for appearances, for love. Real. Complicated. Unexpected. But real. Luke, when I married you, it was a transaction. But you transformed it into something more. You protected me when you didn't have to. You valued me when I was just a line in a contract. And you loved me when I didn't even expect to be loved. Eleanor, when I married you, I thought I was buying a solution. But you gave me purpose. Showed me that protection, loyalty, partnership matter more than any empire. And you taught me that sometimes the best thing comes from the most unlikely beginning. 5 years after original wedding, Luke and Eleanor were expecting their first child, a girl. They would name her Sophia, wisdom in Greek, appropriate for daughter of historian and businessman. She'll ask, Eleanor said, hand on belly, when she grows up, how we met. And we'll tell her the truth, that we started as a transaction, but became love. She'll think it's strange. She will. But she'll also understand that sometimes love doesn't start romantically, but arrives in its own way, its own time. 10 years after wedding, on their decade anniversary, they looked back. Dimitri is still imprisoned, Luke observed, reading news. Another 10 years in sentence and reputation destroyed. Good, justice served. And you? Any regrets? About exposing him? Never? About marrying you? Sometimes. Luke looked surprised. Regret? Elena laughed. I regret not meeting you earlier, in a normal way, where I could have loved you from the start instead of through contract and lies. But we wouldn't have this story, this journey. True. And our story is ours. Strange, complicated, but ours. 15 years after wedding, Sophia was entering university, chose to study law, to protect people like Dad. Protected you, Mum. And Luke and Elena continued, no longer in separate rooms, no longer as strangers, but as a couple that had survived the impossible, that had transformed contract into commitment, lie into truth, transaction into love. Was it worth it? Elena asked on a quiet night, 20 years after everything began. Every moment, every lie that became truth, every fear we faced, worth it? Even when it was hard, when you discovered I lied, especially then, because that's when I saw who you really were. Not poor professor, but strong woman who made impossible choices to survive. And I fell in love with that woman, the real one, not the lie. Elena snuggled into him. You know what I learned? That sometimes the tortuous path leads to the best destination, that a lie can reveal deeper truth, and that a contract can become commitment when two people choose to make it work. And we chose, every day for 20 years. And I'll choose for 20 more, and 20 after that. Promise, promise. And there, in the home they built together, with the life they created from an impossible beginning, Luke and Elena understood. Their marriage had begun as a lie, but it had become a truth deeper than any sincerity. It had been a transaction that became transformation, contract that became commitment, and in the end it didn't matter how it began. It mattered where it arrived, and where it would continue going, together, always, by choice, not by necessity, but by love, real, complicated, built from lies but truer than anything else. Because sometimes the best story isn't the one that starts well. It's the one that ends well, that transforms mistake into success, lie into truth, strangers into soulmates. And that was their story. Imperfect, impossible, but completely, perfectly theirs. Comment below, built love. So I know you made it to the end of this video, and I'll mark your comment with a special heart. And if Luke and Elena's story moved you, I have another even more surprising one to share with you. Just click on the video appearing now on your screen, and I'll tell you everything. Big hug, and until the next emotional story. Bye-bye.